Let's do it, though. On the line is Audacy NFL Insider Peter King. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We're doing great. You have a bunch of stuff in your article that really kind of jumped out at me. This one-liner was really fun, though, and I'd like to ask you about it. You write, Cam Newton, one question. Was Tom Brady a game manager?
Ooh.
And obviously that's referencing Cam's comments that took to task Brock Purdy and Tua and Dak Prescott, calling all of them game managers. Peter, how long are we all going to do this?
Well, I mean, you guys are the ones who started the sort of the common sense approach to it when you referred to the continuing criticism of Brock Purdy as draftism, which, I just keep feeling that no one is going to give this guy the respect he deserves because he was the 262nd pick in the draft. And look, that happened to Tom Brady. People just don't remember it now, because everybody now looks at Brady won 7 Super Bowls. We don't care how much, we don't care how much, how much success he has. We don't care about that. We only know that he was drafted 262nd. So look, I think there are going to be some people who are going to just really not like Brock Purdy, who are going to not kind of respect Brock Purdy. And, life's just got to move on. I think he handles all of it great. It just is water off a duck's back with him, and it should be. The people who still have him ranked low in these quarterback rankings and everything, you just have to just say, so what? And that's kind of how I look at it right now, too.
And when you look at, what he has around him, and even look at a couple of his touchdown passes from this last weekend where McCaffrey was so open, he was able to actually literally fall down and get up and score. Do those plays, the scheme from Kyle Shanahan, the talent around him, is that still a way that people are dogging him?
Seems like it to me. It's all about the fact that he's got a fantastic supporting cast. And so everybody says, okay, he's got this fantastic supporting cast, so that is going to impact what we think of him. And, going back to Cam Newton for a second, the thing that really kind of upsets me is the wrong word, the thing that I'm befuddled by when people criticize quarterbacks who are playing well, it reminds me of people who would criticize John Stockton because, you had Karl Malone to pass to, and and I'm not a big NBA fan, but I'm sure he had other guys on that team who were good shooters who, and all that. But so an assist guy in football, in a lot of ways, is what a quarterback in basketball is in a lot of ways what a quarterback is in football. Tom Brady always viewed his job as putting the ball in the hands of his playmakers. I bet he said it 64 times a year. My job is to put the ball in the hands of the guys who, can run with it and score touchdowns, and that's what I'm going to do. And so if that's a quarterback's job, and he does it, and let's just say Brock Purdy's case, for instance, he does it better than anybody in football this year, what exactly is there to criticize? I just don't understand that, and that's why I just don't really think about it all that much anymore.
Peter King with us, as he is every week on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Peter, something's wrong with the Eagles. What do you see, and how much did the 49ers have to do with it?
That's a great question right there, because I think the 49ers were the first team that, really exposed something, particularly in their defense. And look, I'm going to give you one thought about the Eagles that, in my opinion, is definitely an issue with them. And look, if I were to look at the Eagles overall right now, one thing I would say about them without any question is that teams have been able to go for long drives on the Eagles. And look, last night, mostly They played well against Drew Lock and the backup quarterback of this team, of the Seattle Seahawks. But the one thing that I think you've noticed about this team in the last few weeks, if you look at just the yardage totals, you go back even to Washington in mid-season. I was looking at this yesterday or last night after the game. I mean, just listen to this. The yardage they've given up in the last 6 games: 472, 406, 336, 505 against Buffalo. And look, they outscored them to win that game, but 456, 394, and last night 297. But 92 of those in like a 90-second span late in the game. And the one other thing I would say that would really worry me about the Philadelphia Eagles, they've allowed 100-yard rushing games in each of the last 5 games. And that is after early this season, in the first 10 games of the year, first 9 games of the year, they only allowed 1 100-yard rushing game. And what that tells me is a number of things. Either, let's say that like Jalen Carter and the interior rush guys are either wearing down or they're scheming them better than they have all year. But that thing about, how much they've allowed, how many yards rushing they've allowed is extremely concerning, I would think, to them.
Yeah, and it might be extremely concerning to the 49ers coming off of their game against Arizona where they got gashed on the ground, and in comes Baltimore, the number 1 rush team in football. How do you see this matchup, even though the Ravens are without their top running back, but the Niners could be without their top 2 interior defensive linemen, Peter?
The worrisome thing I would think about this is that if you're – so look, you're the Niners approaching that game against the Cardinals. And honestly, you just say, okay, we got to watch out for Murray. Kyler Murray, he can run all over the place. But then, to give up 234 yards rushing, and obviously some of that is Murray, but, that's kind of ridiculous. Now, let's look at Baltimore for a second, because in my opinion, okay, look, I'm a big Harbaugh guy. I think he's terrific, and I think their team is so good in so many aspects. But they've had some huge injuries, to important runners on that team. Mitchell now, Dobbins early in the year with the Achilles. So they got 2, probably their first and third running backs, both out for the year. But the good thing for the Ravens is that, and they've always been this way, they have a stable of running backs. And look, now they're going to call back Melvin Gordon. He's a professional running back. And so I kind of look at their situation, honestly, and I look at their situation and just say, I think they're going to be okay, honestly, because of how much they take care of their offensive line. And look, 5.0 yards a carry right now, and they're basically averaging 170 yards a game on the ground, whatever it is. It's some ridiculous number. And that is going to be tough to deal with this week. But I guess the one other thing I would say about this game, this is ironic to say this because you don't want to lose any game, but this is an AFC game. And if you look at the way that the schedule has fallen, for the 49ers, the next 2 games, honestly, are more important for the Niners because you want to win your NFC games. If they win the last 2, Washington and the Rams, you would think they would. They're 11-1 in the conference, and that'll trump all tiebreakers, obviously. And I think when I look at the 49ers right now, and I know this is going to sound, overly cautious, but the thing I'm most concerned with in the last 3 weeks, not at the expense of getting home field, definitely, but I think when you do see that you're either way ahead or way behind late in any of these games, man, you got to take Debo out. You got to take McCaffrey out. You got to really do everything you can to make sure that whenever your playoff season starts, you go into it relatively healthy.
Peter, what's your weekly update on how you view the MVP race?
I'm totally thrown into a funk right now. Absolutely thrown into a funk because of what I saw out of Lamar Jackson. And I'm still thinking that Tyreek Hill has a chance to insert himself into this, into this race. I don't think I've changed my mind from a couple of weeks ago, where I would still think of Brock Purdy number one, but I think it's still really, really open because a lot is going to happen in these last 3 weeks. And I'm thinking specifically of Tyreek Hill, quite honestly, because Tyreek Hill has now been they have been very, very conservative with him coming back. He's missed the last game and a half, okay? And if he has a couple of big games down the stretch, he ends up breaking the all-time record, and he would do it because he didn't play against the Jets. He would do it if he plays the last three. He would do it in 16 games, and that's what Calvin Johnson did it in. And so I'm not necessarily a numbers guy on this, but I think a lot of people who vote for this award are going to look kindly on Tyreek Hill, particularly after seeing how much Miami missed him when he was hurt against Tennessee. I think the last thing I would say, I have all the respect in the world for everybody on Christian McCaffrey. You cannot play the running back position better than Christian McCaffrey is playing it. In all ways, he is borderline irreplaceable. We see it every single week. And now that he's at 1,800 yards and he's clearly going to end up, barring injury, way north of 2,000 yards from scrimmage, I don't blame people for saying that he should be in the race. I think this is really going to come down to the wire. That's my feeling.
That's just a great breakdown. And you look at Tyreek Hill, and he needs 425 yards in 3 games to break it, about 140 per game. Is part of your funk going to get solved on Christmas night when it's Lamar versus Brock? I know they don't actually face each other, Peter. I'm not that new to the game to know that, but it'll be Lamar and Brock on display Christmas night. Will that help alleviate some of your funk?
I don't know. It's an odd thing to say because if you look at Lamar Jackson, you don't see Collinsworth put this well the other day. This is what's difficult about this award, that Lamar Jackson is not going to have numbers anywhere near Brock Purdy, I don't think. And I shouldn't say anywhere near. He's not going to have the numbers of Brock Purdy, okay? But if you watch that game the other night, Lamar Jackson held that game in his hands and totally controlled it. Absolutely, unequivocally controlled that game himself. And I'm not saying I was in awe because I've seen Lamar Jackson do this before. But I had gone to the Kansas City-New England game, and I was actually sitting at a hotel in the restaurant. I got positioned near the TV, and I was sitting there. I watched almost the whole first half while I was combination eating, writing, watching. And I just said, Lamar is totally controlling this game because he's doing whatever he wants. When he wants to hit somebody, he does. When he wants to run, he does. And plus, the good thing for him is that he's not taking the big hits, so he's going to last. Or apparently. But again, I need to see these games, and that is the important thing. And Monday night is going to be an important game. And look, it's a weird thing. This is kind of a personal deal, but I'm going to be in Berkeley with my daughter and her family, and I'm not working this weekend. It's the first time in 40 years that I've taken an in-season weekend off covering the NFL. Because before the year, NBC offered it to me, and I said, I'll take it. So I'm taking Christmas off. I'm going to be with the family. I honestly don't know how much football I'm going to watch. And if the kids want to play, some game or whatever, I think I'm probably just going to play it. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'll see enough.
Wow, Grandpa Peter choosing Monopoly over the game of the year.
And Peter, no problem. I'll text you. I'll text you some play-by-play when big plays happen.
Please do that.
Yeah,
please do that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's great though at this time in history, you can always, like, an hour after the game, they've got a 15-minute package of highlights on YouTube, and you can just catch up with all these games. I did that with 3 games that I missed because I was covering New England and Kansas City. And I went back to the hotel after I ate dinner, and I said, okay, I'm going to watch and I watched 45 minutes of highlights. I felt like I knew 3 of these games, and so I'll see enough of it, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, do that, because if you just rely on my text, if the Niners lose by 10, I'll still be like, Purdy was great. You should vote for him.
Be in the tank.
Yeah.
No, if they lose by 10, you'll be in the tank.
That's true.
And you'll say, hey, don't watch anything. It'll be a waste of time.
That's true. I'll be 5 glasses of red deep if that happens. But anyway, Peter King with us here on Willard and Dibs. Peter, I love what you wrote about, and I know Dibs did too, about Jake Browning, and you referenced Brock Purdy with regard to the college experience they had, and therefore that affecting sort of the way that they're now looking in the NFL. Do you think there's any chance that guys like Purdy, Browning, and others may change the way the quarterback evaluation process goes?
I can only hope, because I'm listening to I'm on a show every week in Chicago, and I'm listening to the angst there every time I say that don't get rid of Justin Fields. Use the number 1 pick in the draft either on Marvin Harrison Jr. or to trade for 3 ones to make your roster better. Either get a star who can play alongside DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney and all that, or get a good pass rusher, get another tackle, get some DK Metcalf type, a bigger receiver that you really need, but leave Justin Fields alone. You can win with Justin Fields. And look, so that's part of my thought now. But the other part of my thought that I feel very, very strongly about is that, look, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago on this show, but I was figuring this out recently. If the 49ers win the Super Bowl this year, 6 of the 11 Super Bowls, of the last 11 Super Bowls, will have been won by guys who were the 75th pick in the draft, Russell Wilson, the 199th pick in the draft, Tom Brady, or the 262nd pick in the draft, Brock Purdy. So that says to me, it doesn't say to me that if you've got the first pick in the draft and you're madly in love with one of the quarterbacks coming out, okay, I guess so, take it. But be mature about it. Be thoughtful about it. Be purposeful about it. And understand that you got a pretty good quarterback right now. And wouldn't it be great to be able to solve 2 or 3 major problems with high first-round picks? That's how I'd look at it if I were Ryan Poles of the Chicago Bears right now.
And you can always grab a QB off the couch like Flacco. I mean, maybe Phillip Rivers is...
I mean, that's crazy. How crazy is it, by the way?
Crazy.
I was talking to Flacco's agent, who I've known forever, Joe Linta. And Joe Linta was telling me, so Joe Flacco and I would talk every week, and he said, anybody call? Nope. Nobody called. How about all the injuries this year in football? The Steelers don't call. The Jets don't call. All these teams who are down quarterbacks don't call, and now they're just laughing at all these teams whose season totally went down the toilet. Flacco could have come in, and look, we all know he's not great. Late in the third quarter the other day, he was handing the game to the Bears, had 3 interceptions. But he's the kind of quarterback who he's been there 100 times before. He knows that just because you've thrown a bunch of picks, you don't go in the tank. And he ended up playing well enough down the stretch to have him win. So, to me, I don't know. I really applaud Flacco, and I applaud Kevin Stefanski, who I think has done a hell of a job with that offense and that team this year in Cleveland.
Peter, we're very thankful for you. Happy holidays, and enjoy your first weekend off in 1,000 years. Just soak all that in with the family. Thank you so much.
I'll do that. You're welcome, guys. Talk to you next week.
Thanks,
okay,
Peter.
There it is. Peter King. That was Audacy NFL Insider Peter King.